Uh, Good evening, distinguished guests, esteemed researchers and colleagues. On behalf of Bayt Lisaniyat International Academy, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to our scientific lecture this evening. I would like to start by expressing our heartfelt gratitude to our speaker who has joined us today to share his valuable insights and research findings. I also extend my sincere appreciation to our supervisors and support team for their support and collaboration in facilitating this event. Additionally, I wish to acknowledge our coordination and technical assistance team for their contributions. This evening, we delve into a topic of profound cultural and academic significance, one that sits at the intersection of language, identity, and translation. Our lecture is titled Maintaining Cultural Identity, Translating Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs into English as a Case Study. In a globalized world, oral traditions and cultural expressions are often at risk of being lost in translation. The translation of proverbs, which are the wisdom of culture, present a unique challenge. It requires not only linguistic proficiency, but also a deep cultural literacy to ensure that the spirit and identity of the source language are preserved in target language. Our speaker tonight will guide us through this process using the rich traditional Riffian-Amazigh proverbs as a compelling case study. We are privileged to have Dr. Najib El Mahraoui as our speaker this evening. Dr. Najib is a researcher and a teacher of English. He holds a PhD in translation from Chouaib Doukkali University in Jadida, Morocco, and a master's degree in translation science and linguistics from Abdul Malik Saidi University in Tétouan. His research interests span literary and cultural translation, as well as cultural and gender studies and literature. He has an impressive record of participation in international conferences and has published several research papers demonstrating his commitment to advancing his scholarship in his field. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Najib. The floor is yours. Dr. Najib, can I start?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, you can start. Okay.
Uh, Good afternoon, Sehmet. Can you hear me?
Yes, your voice is clear. Oh,
Can you? Okay. Okay, thank you.
you're
So,
welcome.
good
Just
afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, dear audience and spectators who are watching and listening to this presentation, which is about maintaining cultural identity, translating Riffian-Amazigh proverbs into English as a case study. My presentation is outlined as follows. First, we have introduction, then I move to the significance of the study, then I will ask some research questions in relation to the research problem. Fourth, we have theoretical framework, then methodology, then I move to findings and discussion. Before the last, we have some limitation of the study, and then we conclude the presentation. Let's admit that proverbs are vitally crucial to life and language. To quote Robert Sutherland Rattray, 1916, He states that without them, referring to Proverbs, the language would be but a skeleton without flesh, a body without soul. It's a very significant quote, which shows the importance of proverbs in our everyday conversations. Proverbs do convey metaphorical and deeper meaning concerning culture, values, thoughts, experiences of a certain community. To translate such orc expressions is like getting into cross-cultural communication between people belonging to different communities. And here we have Riffian-Amazigh community and let's say the English-speaking community, to which the proverbs are going to be translated. In addition to transmitting knowledge from one language to another, translation also enhances cultural exchange, bridges cultural gaps, and promotes cultural awareness and understanding. It's thanks to translation that we have access to many articles, books, and other publications. Why such a study is important? Let's agree that Moroccan literature and culture in general, Amazigh in particular, merits consideration and investigation. We know that such language or such culture is understudied. So it's time for researchers who are interested in Amazigh studies to conduct such type of research. This study will probably contribute to enriching the repertoire of focused studies in the field of Amazigh English translation studies, and it may also constitute a significant contribution to the field as it is concerned with surveying cultural as well as social components. The current study will try to cover some research problems. So when it comes to translating proverbs from Riffian-Amazigh into English, we should take into account that Riffian-Amazigh and English belong to different language families and are anchored to totally different cultures. So here we have Amazigh culture versus English culture. While Riffian-Amazigh belongs to Afro-Asiatic languages spoken in North Africa, English belongs to a group of Germanic languages forming part of a larger language family called Indo-European family, to quote Barber et al. We know that proverbs are carriers of cultural values, beliefs, and ideas that are not common or have no equivalents in English cultural background. And this is the challenge of a translator. How can he or she preserve the cultural features, cultural values embedded in such proverbs while transfer them into English? It's quite challenging indeed. So the aim on this basis, the aim of this study is to try to help this language and this golden cultural heritage, and take this golden cultural heritage to the universal scene. The present paper tries to answer the following question. What are the different Riffian-Amazigh cultural aspects embedded in the proverbs translated and analyzed? Second, what strategies are employed to achieve an effective cultural transfer? Finally, to what extent are proverbs and or translatable to English? To what extent are these proverbs, or it's possible to translate them, or it's impossible to translate such culture-specific proverbs? And we'll have examples, of course. Albert Einstein stated that in theory and practice are the same, but in practice they are not. So in each study we need some theoretical background in which we can base our practical path. So here I'm referring to cultural translation. As proverbs are culture-loaded units, and translating them certainly belongs to cultural translation. And here I'm going to quote some famous scholars who tried to shed light on the relationship between language and culture. So it starts with Gideon Turi, cited in Venuti 2000. He defines translation as follows. Translation is an activity which inevitably involves two languages and two cultures. And here we underline culture. Second, Lotzman summarized the interrelationship between language and culture by stating that no language can exist unless it is steeped in the context of culture, and no culture can exist which does not have at its center the structure of natural language. Similarly, Riffian-Amazigh 2015 stressed the interplay between language and culture by claiming that in the process of translation, not only two languages but also two cultures come into contact. In this sense, then translation is a form of intercultural communication. Let's admit that the most debatable and problematic issue in translation is equivalence. So why we translate? In order to achieve a certain degree of equivalence between the source language and the target language. That's why equivalence is a central issue in translation studies. Its definition and applicability within the field of translation theory is controversial as well as debated. Consequently, different theories of the concept of equivalence have been developed. In this context, I can refer to a lot of scholars who have developed theories about equivalence, like Vinay and Davnitz, Roman Jacobson, Nida, Eugene, Catford, Hauser, Kohler, Baker, and Pym. And of course, among others, there are others who worked on the issue of equivalence. In this case, we have Newmark, 1988, who states, it has sometimes been said that the overriding purpose of English translation should be to achieve equivalent effect, i.e., to produce the same effect or one as close as possible on the readership of the translation as has obtained from the readership of the original. Of course, in translation, we need to adopt and apply certain translation strategies. And no one can deny that Vinay and Davnitz, 1985, are considered to be the first scholars to develop a taxonomy of translation strategies. For example, they divide these strategies into two main categories: methods of direct or literal translation, like borrowing, calc, and literal translation, and methods of oblique translation, transposition, modulation, equivalence, and adaptation. We will see examples when we go to the practical part. Furthermore, G.C. Catford believes that certain chains or shafts occur while translating. He distinguished between two major types of shafts: level shafts and category shafts. Newmark, following the classification by Vinay and Barnett, draws a distinction between translation methods and translation procedures. We also have the concept of romanization and domestication, which originated first with the German theorist Schleiermacher, but popularized in the by Lawrence Venuti. further, we have Baker 2011, who suggested several strategies for translating fixed expressions such as idioms and proverbs, like borrowing, translation by expansion, omission, etc. She also suggested using fixed expressions of similar meaning. It means try to find another equivalent fixed expression in the target language with roughly the same meaning. And also she suggested using fixed expression with of the same meaning dissimilar uh, but with dissimilar form. I mean with different lexical items. We have the same meaning, I mean equivalents, with the same meaning but with different lexical items, with different words. As far as the methodology adopted in this study is concerned, it says that the area of my research, in the present study in translation, falls within translating first, as well as writing commentaries on the translation process. Such process-based study is one of the areas of research in translation studies introduced by Williams and Kister in 2002 in their book, The Math. Concerning the number of the proverbs that I'm dealing with, a collection of 28 proverbs are the focus of this study, which is based on a mixed methodological approach of data analysis, quantitative and qualitative methods. So here, concerning the number or the type of proverbs, I try to focus on the most representative proverbs that are purely culture specific. We know that there are culture specific proverbs and there are universal proverbs that are shared by world culture. Concerning the data collection, I rely to a certain extent on some reference books which have already dealt with Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs in French and Arabic, but not English. They have these proverbs, I mean, collected. Data is either in Arabic or French, and they try to translate it either into Arabic or French. Let's take examples of Bouilmani, Ahmed Bouilmani 1993, Hamdawi 2004, Mudian 2004, also 2012, and Mohammed Mira 2009 and 2014. So the books I was referring to just now are like this, or are the following. Ahmed Bouilmani 1993, we have Proverbs de Rif, written in the proverbs are introduced in Tarifit and translated into French. Imon Hamdawi, the same thing. Proverbe et expression proverbiale amazigh le Tarifit. Chouaib Doukkali 1001 proverbe Rifin. We have Brissas 2012 ألف مثل المزيغ ومثلان. We have Mohammed Mira المثل الأمثال الشعبية في الريف. So these are some of the books that I relied on in data collection. But of course, as a native speaker, I try to collect my own purpose, my own data of proverbs. Concerning how I proceed in the data analysis, so we have 5 steps. Now in step A, I provide phonetic and morphological transcription. In step D, we have word-for-word translation. And in C, I provide literary or idiomatic translation. This is an important part. In D, I comment on the meaning of the proverb. And finally, I comment on the translation strategy adopted for translating the proverb in question. And of course, when there is a case of difficult word or culture-specific word, I try to provide some detailed explanation and footnotes at the bottom of the page. proverb samples. So here I'm going to the theoretical part, the most important part in this paper. I tried to classify, I mean, these proverbs in terms of the themes or the topics they deal with. It's a kind of topic-based grouping or topic-based classification. So here I want to draw your attention to A, step A, and step C, because here we have the translation, the literary or idiomatic translation of the proverb. So, theme one, we have dignity. So, proverb one, under this theme, is read like this. After this throne were a treat them down. After this throne were a treat them down. C, idiomatic or literary translation. Pancakes and embers are better than trees and tears. Pancakes and embers are better than trees and tears. So this proverb means that living with dignity and in peace, though having very few means, is better than being rich, but facing serious problems. Being rich will not solve all one's problems at all. And we have a lot of cases in our society, like let's say a wife who is married to a rich person, but yet she suffers a lot because some domestic violence or some oppression, etc. So in this case, if you ask the woman or the wife, which life would you prefer, whether marital life or when you used or when you used to live with your family, she would opt for second, because no one bears everyday problems, especially when there is violence. Problem is the proverb is literally translated, but its meaning is retained in the target language, except for the word trees, which is strongly grounded in the culture of the source language. So we know that the term trees or fissa in the Moroccan Darija refers to a traditional Moroccan dish, and hence has no equivalent in the culture of the target language. So we don't have an equivalent in English. So we should, or we opted for keeping or retaining this word. So this is a special dish that we offer in religious occasions, like Ashura and Prophet's Day, and we also offer it to a new mother. Huh? So it's also an Amazigh, dish. The second proverb under the theme of dignity reads like أمن وجرمان ورا أغين شميت أمن وجرمان ورا أغين شميت. Bitter the water of the pond than the buttermilk of indecent people. Bitter the water of the pond than the buttermilk of indecent people. The proverb pinpoints that it's better to live poor and be satisfied with the little you have than to ask rude people for help and thus expose yourself to their humiliation. English contains proverbs meaning almost the same as the source language proverb, like better poor with honor than rich with shame. A direct translation, here we have a case of a direct translation. The original proverb's vocabulary and structure is replicated in the target language. This translation also respects the structure of the target language as well as the pattern of the English proverb, better X than Y. And we have a lot of proverbs in English with this pattern, like better late than never, for example. The words composing the proverb are reproduced in the target language, except for the word shmei, which is paraphrased here. Number 3 reads like Here's a Newton, what is affiliate? Here's a Newton, what is affiliate? Better to plow using dogs than to get humiliated by donkeys. Better to plow using dogs than to get humiliated by donkeys. This proverb is used to deny help from a rude person. It's like number 2. The proverb is literally translated in conformity with the structural constraints of the target language, namely style, form, and the poetic feature. This translation also involves grammatical transposition. The noun piazza, the act of flowing, is rendered as a verb to flow, infinitive with to, and the noun zat is rendered into an English construction that we are familiar with. Get humiliated, get plus past participle. What is more, the translation also respects the proverb structure of the target language, bitter excellent wine. The second theme, evidence. And the first proverb is like Oran vukiyor itnit isriuriunni. Oran vukiyor itnit isriuriunni. It's vukiyor's within party, he both eats and ululates by himself. It's vukiyor's within party, he both eats and ululates by himself. This proverb is often used to criticize someone for holding a ceremony with family, but without inviting friends and neighbors. This, of course, goes counter to the Riffian tradition. We know that wedding party is one of the most important personal events in one's life. So when we have the event, we try to invite as many friends and neighbors as contacts as possible. So this proverb is a kind of criticism to those people who don't invite new friends and neighbors. Concerning the translation, the proper noun "bukio" is kept intact in translation because it's a culture-bound proper noun, so it is transliterated. But the issue here is translation of the culture-specific vocal sound, isriuriu. He let out a loud rhythmic sound uttered as an expression of great joy, similar to how women do in social gathering, for instance. By translating it to ululate in the target language, the true meaning is sacrificed here, for the verb ululate is defined as owl or wail with grief. Here it's referring to a kind of sadness, and this sounds different from how the term is defined in our Riffian culture and used in Riffian society. In the culture of the source language, the item is usually used to express joy, in the contrary to English, which is used to refer to sadness. Number two, the proverb reads as "وَرِتِشْحَدَّغْ James نَعْمْ وَرِتِشْحَدَّغْ James نَعْمْ." Nobody lends the ladder on 8th day. Nobody lends the ladder on 8th day. The proverb means that one should choose the right time to ask someone for something, or to ask someone for help. During a celebration, for example, everyone needs their ladder. It's never the right time to ask someone to lend it to you because you will certainly get a negative response to your request. Concerning the translation, this translation involves borrowing. The culture-specific term "raid" is accommodated and rendered as "8th day" in the target language. Number three, the proverb reads as "Anqdur amamah, merasis vuyamah." Anqdur amamah, merasis vuyamah. Like Amar, like Qdur if the gun is full. Like Amar, like Qdur if the gun is full. The proverb means that when one has got a weapon, they become dangerous. What counts here is the danger generated by the weapon. If we take the example of socialist war, we can notice how much damage people cause to each other since such virtual spaces allow freedom to write and express oneself. For example, one is physically weaker, yet they can do as much harm as a strong person. Concerning the translation strategy we have here, it's a case of literal translation, and there is a complete replication of the pattern of original proverbs in the target language. The traditional names Omar and Quddur are retained, since they are specific to Riffian-Amazigh culture. Stylistically, speaking the proverb pattern like X, like Y is replicated in the target language too. We have also here we have a case of another topic, a case of borrowing. We have here the word cesspoo. Cesspoo is a French word which refers to a kind of French rifle or French gun, and it's borrowed and I mean incorporated to Riffian-Amazigh and becomes cesspoo. But in the source language, it's like chassepot in French. This is, of course, another topic which I have on which I have written an article called "The Lexical Borrowing into Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs." At the end, I will provide the link. Theme 3, dependence. الشيخ المعروف من سيدي شاهد. الشيخ المعروف من سيدي شاهد. He counts on the favor of Sidi Shahid. The proverb here is quoted to refer to an idle and lazy person who does not take any initiative to improve his situation. And Sidi Shahid is a famous marabout in the Rif region. It is situated in a region or an area called Kumsana. So it's a marabout where Rifian people used to go in the past to such marabout to ask for benediction, to ask for, as we say in Arabic, baraka. So, for example, people who are not married, people who are sick, etc., used to go and visit such marabouts and ask for cure, ask for benediction, ask for barakah, etc. Concerning the proverb strategy or the translation strategy, we have a literal translation via retaining the form, the style, and the diction of the original language. Subject, verb, object is respected. As for vocabulary, the marabout Sidishayat is a culturally specific concept and therefore has no translation equivalent in the target language. The word is transferred verbatim to the target language without detailed explanation in the footnote. Theme 4, we have proverb 1 reads as القط يدور غيلان. القط يدور غيلان. Cat falls down to the ground. Cat falls down to the ground. Probably means that moral values and ethics are deteriorating and degenerating in our society. Yeah, for example, little or let's say young people don't respect old people. We have illiterate or ignorant people don't respect educated people, etc. So we say cap falls down to the ground. Concerning the translation strategy, we have here a functional equivalent. The essential message of the original proverb remains intact with modified language, as the proverb is deeply rooted in the culture of the source language. Thus, the source language verb phrase is "Ghaylan" turns towards speed is rendered to a different but closest equivalent with closest verb phrase falls down to the ground in the target language. Concerning stylistics, this translation preserves the metaphor embedded in the source language. That is, the word "qad" here stands for human values and principles. Theme 5, Politics. Proverb 1, أمجار ذولني بدرنس فسوة. أمجار ذولني بدرنس فسوة. A change of the sickle's handle is made, but unremoved remains the blade. A change of the sickle's handle is made, but unremoved remains the blade. The proverb is quoted to show that the current situation remains the same and the living conditions, be them social or economic, are not improving since no strict measures are taken. We know that in the 50s and the 80s there were manifestations or protests in the north of Morocco about the economic and social conditions. And they used to use, such a proverb in their everyday conversations. Say, "Amjad, we need the mist." Concerning as for the translation strategy, this translation involves modulation and grammatical transposition. Concerning modulation, there is a shift from active "بالنص" we change its handle to a change of the handle is made. There is also a shift from affirmative "بالنص" into and removed, not removed. As for transposition, there is a change of the grammatical category of the verb they change into a noun, a change. There is also translation by omission, where, which means only in English, is omitted in the target language, and the translation by expansion or addition, but is added to highlight the idea that no real change has taken place. The last theme we have covered here in this presentation, and of course we have other themes. When you check the paper or the article published, it's instantaneity and delay. Proverb number one, "روح ثوري ثوري المهم." "روح ثوري ثوري المهم." It's too late, my dear son. The gun is already armed. Such proverb is rooted in the Riffian-Amazigh society and oral culture, and there is a story behind it. In a tribe, in a famous tribe in Rif called Aithwariyagh, there used to be a farmer who had some fig trees. One day, he noticed that one of his fig trees was being stolen by someone whom he didn't know. So he decided to go to check who was stealing his figs. One day, from a distance, he noticed that someone was in one of his fig trees and was stealing the figs. And from distance, he shouted 3 times, "Hey, who is there? Hey, who is there?" Try I mean, to move away, but he got no answer. Then he loaded his gun and tried to shoot the thief, but the thief was unfortunately was his son. The son tried to convince his father. He said, "No, it's me, my father. It's your son. It's your son." He said, "No, it's too late, my dear son. The gun is already armed." So we use this proverb to refer to some kind of insistence and obstinacy. So when the gun is loaded, there is no returning back. So he shot and killed his son. Since then, this statement became a proverb that we use. Everybody or most people use it in the Rif region. But concerning the translation strategy here, the original proverb, as we said, is heavily rooted in the source language culture, and finding a full cultural equivalent in English is improbable. On this basis, adaptation strategy is used to create context that can be easily understood by the target reader. Thus, the implicit meaning of the proverb is made explicit in the target language, explicitation through specification, in the sense that it becomes clear for the reader that proverb is about a father who is ready to shoot his son using a gun. All this contextual detail is not present in the target language. So this is in by this proverb we close this list of the proverbs represented here. Now let's move to uh, the findings and discussion based on Newmark's taxonomy of cultural terms. I made this table. As you can see, each one of the 28 proverbs analyzed tend to cover a certain cultural area. For example, if we take proverb number 1 and proverb number 25, we have the cultural item 3, which belongs to which is part of material culture, means food. We have in proverb 8 rasa, which refers to religious activity. We have in proverb, for example, number 2, we have the word ari, buttermilk, which is material culture, etc. So each proverb covers a certain cultural area. That's why I try to classify them in terms of uh, the taxonomy provided by Newmark 1988. So I cannot go through all these items. So here you have the table, and of course, if anyone interested, any research interested, he may or she may check within the article online. As for the strategies used to achieve an effective cultural transfer, the study has revealed the following. So most, so we start from the most used strategies to the less used ones. So as you can see, the most used strategy here is literal translation. Why? Because through this study, we want to take the reader, the target reader, to the source culture. We want him to, or we want her to discover the features and the aspects of our culture, our local culture. That's we most of the time literal translation is used. It's a kind of foreignizing, uh, foreignizing activity. And we have other strategies used, of course, like borrowing, transliteration, grammatic transposition, etc. In this figure also we have we refer to the strategies used. One of the interesting elements revealed by this study is that we sometimes, or in few times, we use individual strategies to translate a proverb, but in most cases, we use mixed strategies. It means more than one strategy. So as you can see, we used it 25 or 20 times, and in 8 times we used individual strategies. Of course, any study has got certain limitations. The lack of previous. So here, let's refer to certain limitations of the current study. First, the lack of previous, parallel comparable corpora makes undertaking both the translation of the proverbs as well as assessment and validation of the transfer mechanism and methodologically intricate interplay. And here I have to refer to my professor, my supervisor in the doctoral research, Professor Ahmed Abouilmani, who is an expert in translation. I'd like to thank him for validating my translation while he was conducting the research and in translating the proverbs from Tarifit to English. And for more accuracy and fluency, I also consulted an American friend called Nico Guzman, who is actually living in Morocco, to check the elements of accuracy and fluency and so with and see to what extent there is equivalence between the source proverb and the target proverb. Second, no focused study has ever been conducted on analyzing Riffian-Amazigh cultural-specific proverbs and transferring them into English. So this study is a is the first of its time, thereby achieving absolute generalizability and transferability is quite challenging. The study is in no way exhaustive. There may come other researchers and do conduct research and translate such proverbs and come with different translations, etc. But that's why I say this is not an exhaustive study. But what I recommend is that when we translate such poetic expressions or such oral expressions, we have to take into account the culture where they are born. We have to take into account the poetic language of such fixed expressions. We have also to take into account the figurative language that characterize proverbs. So, whenever we do translation, especially when it comes to translating proverbs from Turkish into English, such elements should be taken seriously into account. Otherwise, we lose the spirit of the proverb. Anyway, the limitations of the study are many, yet the insights it offers and the questions it raises are thought-provoking and need to be considered in future similar studies. To conclude, in a globalized world where culture constantly interacts, translation provides a platform for negotiating, constructing, and deconstructing national and cultural identities. The translator, through their work, influences how foreign cultures are understood and how domestic cultures see themselves in relation to the global scale. I'm not saying that my translations are the best or are the most appropriate ones. I believe that the task of the translator is not to maximize sameness, but to try to retain or try to retain as much as he or she can the cultural and the social features embedded in these expressions. Because trying to provide a complete replica of the source language proverb into the target language remains, for me, idealistic. It's impossible. It's like translating a poem. It's very difficult. Okay. So for more information, so I have here my publications. I mean, in relation to the proverbs. So, for example, number one, it's an article about translating Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs into English. That anyone interested, so you can check it. I mean, online. The second publication about the proverbs is about the theme of contradiction in Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs. The third publication about Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs that I conducted, it's entitled "Deconstructing Gender Roles Through Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs: A Critical Study." It's published in the International Journal of Amazigh and Berber Research. And finally, we have another publication about the Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs called "Lexical Borrowing into Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs." This is is a kind of reference paper which is published by the Sumi State University in Ukraine. I would like to thank you for your patience, attention.
Uh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Marawi Najib, for that incredibly insightful and thoughtful, provoking presentation. You have masterfully illuminated the complex journey of translating cultural expressions, moving beyond the transfer of words to the preservation of identity, mainly the Amazigh identity and heritage. Your focus on Riffian-Amazigh Proverbs provides a critical and vital and specific lens through which we can understand the universal challenge of maintaining cultural integrity in translation. Your emphasis on the translation of need for deep cultural literacy in both the source and the target language is crucial. As you demonstrated, a proverb is not just a phrase, it is a capsule of history, tradition, and social customs or norms. I think you used the mixed approach. Your call for fidelity to the spirit of the original while making it accessible in a new language is the central challenge and ultimate art of cultural translation. This discussion or this discourse serves as a powerful reminder that translation is not a neutral act. It is an act of cultural mediation. And in the case of oral traditions like proverbs and songs, it is an act of preservation. Your work highlights how universities and researchers can play a vital role in safeguarding inti- intangible cultural heritage for future generations. So, thank you again. We now invite participants to engage in the questions session and discussion. You can share your questions in the chat box, the questions that you want us to ask the guest speaker. Uh, so, Dr. Mahraoui, do you get the voice clearly? We have some questions for you. If you could hear me, please confirm.
Yes, Ahmed, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Are there any
yeah,
questions? So,
yeah. The first question that
so
we have is that your research highlights the challenges of translating culturally bound terms when a
mhm.
direct equivalent in English simply does not exist for a Riffian Amazigh proverb. So, what are the strategies that do you find most effective in translating these proverbs while preserving the spirit or the original meaning? Are there any specific strategies that you like to use more than others? Dr. Najib? Dr. Najib?
yes,
Uh, the question is about the
yes,
strategies
now
that
I can hear you.
research.
But before,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
couldn't.
yeah. The first question is about which strategies that can researchers use to translate proverbs while they maintain the original meaning. Are there any strategies that you prefer to use?
You asked me about what are the most appropriate strategies used in
Yeah,
translating
Proverbs.
Proverbs into English.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say that most of the strategies used, or the most strategy used, is literal translation in a lexical borrowing, right? When we keep, the same words because they are culture specific. We cannot, sacrifice. So, as I said, literal translation, borrowing, transliteration. So these are the most used strategies in this study. Of course, there are other strategies like modulation and grammatical transposition. If we take into account that English and Serifit are structurally different, they have got different grammatical restrictions. Okay, that's why sometimes we move from a noun to a verb, from a verb to a noun, from a noun, etc.
Yeah. The second question that we have is that did you use the mixed approach? If you used the mixed approach, why you didn't use the just one approach, quantitative or qualitative? Why you used both approaches? Dr. Najib? Dr. Najib, it seems that we have some connection or internet issues because of the windy weather. Did you hear the second question? Okay, so the second question was about the research methodology. I don't know if you are hearing me or not. I need to check again. Yeah, yeah. Dr. Najib, the second question, do you hear me now? The voice is, I think my voice is clear because I see that some marks that shows that my voice is clear. Do you hear me now? Dr. Najib, I don't know. So we have several questions from the followers and so on, and researchers. So since we have this problem of communication, it's on behalf of all attendees, I wish to express or our sincere appreciation to Dr. Najib El Mahraoui for delivering this insightful and essential lecture. Your discourse has highlighted that translation is far more than a technical skill. It is a vital bridge between cultures, preserves identity, and a profound scholarly pursuit. Your call for culturally literate approach to translation offers a valuable framework for both academic and practitioners. We extend our special gratitude to our supervisors, coordinators, and technical teams. The discourse today of today or this study of language and culture is not historic. It's a dynamic field that tests our ability to understand one another or a culture, or these differences between cultures and linguistic or language varieties. So let us take these reflections thus and think of uh, other ways in which we can represent the Moroccan culture, the Amazigh culture, not only the Riffian culture, but all these diverse language varieties that are used in Morocco. So, Dr. Mahraoui, if you are hearing me, any final thoughts? Do you hear me, Dr. Mahraoui? It seems that yeah. Now, please, Dr. Mahraoui, your mic is not active. Activate the mic. Your mic is not active. Yeah,
Can you
it's
hear me?
there. Yeah. Now I hear you. Any final thoughts? Do you hear me clearly?
No, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very
Yeah,
much,
it is.
Ahmed,
Yeah.
for your
Welcome. You're welcome.
yeah. And I would like to extend my thanks to of this, esteemed audience and spectators. Uh, I recommend that we should, do a lot of translation. We should translate our culture. It's our duty. So if we want, to make our culture become national worldwide, we need to do translation. This is the best and the most useful way our culture to the academic and universal landscape. And thank you very much for your
Thank you.
cooperation, Steve.
Thank you, Dr. Najib, for your insightful presentation and the rational ideas, and for sharing with us the findings of your research. You are welcome always to participate with us. I think today we have some internet issues because of this weather that is in all over Morocco. So thank you to the participants. We are
Yeah,
sorry we couldn't discuss these questions that you shared in the chat box because of this issue of the internet. So thank you to all staff of the Beit Lisaniyat Academy. So see you inshallah after Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak Saeed for all. So have a good
okay, thank
night.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Najib.